So you've looked at how to build a food menu basics. So now we're going to provide you with some videos on different scenarios. So the first thing we're going to look at is children's menus. So here we have the traditional, like a wedding breakfast meal set up with the reception, wedding breakfast, and evening. So we're going to be looking at the wedding breakfast to make sure that the kids get options from the kids menu. So under product lists, you want to create child dessert, child main, child starter. Okay. You're going to associate it with the starter choice group. So when you're on the guest list, it'll have starter. And then for the child, you'll see what starter options children are eligible for. You're building the product list the same way you did with the other starters or other product lists from the previous video. The difference here is we want to make sure we use the guest filter. Since this is the child starter, we only want it to be an option for children. So for the guest filter, we're going to add in children. Now, my menu, we have the young adult option as well. So I'm also going to allow young adults to order from the kids menu, but I'm going to make it a larger portion. So children will be able to choose any of the child options. Young adults will be able to choose any of the child options at a larger portion. Now for these young adults, they also can choose from the adult menu. So we want to make sure they're on there. So I'm going to go to starter, to my guest filter, adults and young adults. So I have adults, young adults, and we're going to allow children to choose from the adult menu as well with a smaller portion. And I'm not charging extra here. You can, if the children are having an adult starter, even at a smaller portion, maybe it's an extra 2-3 pounds. So you can have an associated charge here. So if you have, little Lucy on your guest list who's 10 years old, she's going to have the option to have a smaller portion of one of the adult items, but she'll also have a choice of one of the child starters. So she's going to seem to get more options than the adults because the adults will only see the adult options. And then you're going to repeat that as appropriate for main and desserts. Then the product list, you're going to pull through on your wedding breakfast. So we see here we have them starter, main, dessert. They're going in sequence. So the couple will choose their starter, main, desserts for kids, and then it's out of order, but the options for their adults, and they're going in sequence. Please note that if there are not any children associated with the event, so even on the estimated numbers, children is 0, they will not have to make children food choices. So in this case, since we added young adult, it'd be young adult would have to be 0 as well. So if there's nobody eligible for a certain choice on the menu, you won't have to pick it. So if it's all adults, we're not going to bother the customer to choose pizza or pasta for kids because there's no kids there. So in order to see those options on your menu, make sure you at least have a 1 on the estimated guest numbers. So that will activate that. Few other notes on children's meals. Canapes. So if you serve canapes to kids, where is that? Here we go. By not having any guest filter, it's going to assume that children are on there. If you only want canapes for adults, make sure you filter it just to adults or young adults or whatnot. So make sure you're using your guest filters so things are counting the correct guest types. Another note on kids. So one of the options on these wedding breakfasts is a buffet, a hog roast in this case. So menu hog roast. Sometimes some venues offer the kids menu in conjunction with a buffet. So if you offer the kids menu in conjunction with the buffet, you can do so by pulling through those product lists. Now that's assuming that kids are having just the buffet. So if they were just the kids options. So we'll go kid, starter, main, dessert. So we'll have the hog roast for adults, and then the kids will have their standard 3-course kids menu. Some cases, you're going to allow the child to choose, are you having the child's menu or are you having the buffet with the adults? In which case, we want to have that number. So we're not counting the kids' numbers for the hog roast because it's adult only, but we want to know which kids are eating off the buffet and which kids are getting the chicken nuggets. So in that case, what I recommend doing is on your child main, add one more product here that would be buffet. And then in your description, it would be access to the adult buffet if applicable or if chosen. So then the child would have a choice between pasta or the buffet. That will pull it through nicely to the chef's overview. So the chef will see, we've got 4 kids having pasta and 3 kids having the buffet, and they can make the correct adjustments. This is if you allow the children's menu and the buffet. Because the buffet, hog roast, barbecue, whatever you have here, it's going to be, right now it's catering to all numbers, but if you had a separate kids menu, you would make this adults only. So you'd know that 80 adults are having this, and then you would have the number of kids having it from the kids menu. Okay, because we don't want to have if you're going this route, you don't want, if we have 80 adults and 5 kids, if we remove this guest filter, it's now going to say the hog roast for 85. And then you may have 5 kids having pasta. So now you're setting yourself up for food waste because you're catering the buffet for 5 kids and you're having the pasta. So it's really think about how your chef overview output is going to be and what's more meaningful for your chef. To see the hog roast for 85, 80 adults and 5 kids. And then the kids menu choices, and they know they just subtract those from the kids number on your hog roast. Or is it better for them to see hog roast for 80 adults and then under the kids section of the chef's menu, it says 3 kids are having buffet. So we're looking at kind of data in, data out, making sure everything works. So again, I typically see when there's a buffet, it's an option for the kids in addition to the kids' choices. So then I would see the buffet, access to the buffet as a kids option here. Description, only choose if choosing buffet for adults or something like that. Okay, so that's how you're going to handle the kids. One other thing on the evening buffet, guest filter, if you have that off, it's going to include the kids in that number. So if you're only wanting evening buffet for adults, you want to make sure you utilize that adults daytime and adults evening, add your young adults if you need to or whatnot. So make sure your guest filters are spot on.